here, and people probably keep joining us. But welcome. So for this morning's webinar, I'm Courtney Lloyd. I am the Outreach and Engagement Specialist at Hatching Results, and I'll be the facilitator here today. I'll be introducing the presenter in just a minute. So we are here for the Hatching Hour webinar, Harvesting Opportunities to Support Your Students' College and Career Dreams. So this morning, our presenter is Homero M. Magaña. We're really excited to have him here today. Some fun facts, he and I have a lot in common. So Homero M. Magaña, he attended San Diego State University. That's where he got his master's in school counseling with Dr. Trish Hatch. He'll probably also share he's worked really closely with Dr. Hatch in different capacities, including at the White House with the Obamas, which is very awesome. And fun fact, he and I also went to UC Berkeley for our undergrad. So go Bears. With that, we're going to turn it over to Homero. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to do a little screen trade. And then we're going to get started. Thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you, Courtney. Well, hi everyone. Welcome to our session today. It is an honor for me to be here today with Hatching Results. It is a dream of mine to continue to support Hatching Results. Today, Courtney was saying to me, well, how are you connected kind of with Hatching Results? And it's a long story. As you may know, some of you who are here today, you know a little bit of my story. But I grew up in Mexico. I grew up in Mexico for 12 years. And during those 12 years of living in a rancho in Mexico, I thought my life was set. I was supposed to be a agricultural worker. I was supposed to work on the fields. I was supposed to follow what my dad had done for years. He worked 32 years picking lemons and oranges in California, Ventura County. And all of a sudden, I had the opportunity in 1993 to come to middle school in Ventura County. And once I was able to come to middle school, little did I know that there were so many opportunities in education in the United States, more than I had in my rancho. You see, in my rancho, my parents only had a second grade education. And for me, when I was in seventh grade, there was only schooling in my rancho until the age of ninth grade. After that, there was no more education. And so for me, coming to middle school here in Fillmore, California, it opened so many doors for me to be able to learn about all the possibilities that can exist in school. So in a short story, I went to Mopa College for 3 years. Then I went to UC Berkeley for 2 years. Then I went to San Diego State for those 2 years. And that's when I met Dr. Trish Hatch. And I remember Dr. Trish Hatch saying to me, Homero, it's really important for you to stay connected with a professional school counseling. And right after I graduated from San Diego State, I couldn't get a job between May, June, and July. And I came to Dr. Hatch like in June and said, Dr. Hatch, you know what? I think I'm going to change the profession. I'm going to become a loan officer. And she's like, what? Are you crazy? I know. Let me help you get a job. So she contacts Oceanside Unified School District, and I get a job as a high school counselor at Oceanside High School, and I worked there for 2 years as a high school counselor. Then, as you can see here, Pablo Leaños is here in this group today. I actually applied 2 years and a half later to work at Morpa High School, and he was an assistant principal at that time there. And so I was able to get hired at Morpa High School, where I spent in Morpa Unified School District 14 years working as a counselor. I worked a total of 10 years as a high school counselor and 6 years K through 8. And now I had a pleasure of working as a full-time professor, tenure track position at California Lutheran University. I'm also on my first year on the doctoral program. I have finished my first 2 semesters, and my dissertation will be focused totally on school counseling. So today, let's begin, and throughout the presentation, I'll share with you some different experiences. But I'm excited that all of you are here. If at any point anybody wants to share anything, feel free to just share. I can't see you right now because I'm only looking at the screen, but feel free to just share, and I'll be able to listen to any questions that you may have. So the reason I call this Harvesting Opportunities to Support Your Students' College and Career Dreams is because when I used to work on the fields, harvesting is one of the culmination of all the hard work that you do in order to cultivate the crops and have the crops that is the final product. And I thought about like, well, how can we do this in regards to the role of the school counselor, harvesting opportunities to support your students' college and career dreams. You see, many students and families have so many dreams to be able to either go to college or just graduate from high school, and all of them have different ideas as to what can be for them the future. And so I really believe that we as school counselors are in a unique position, and especially also as administrators, you're in a unique position to be able to ensure that students have the more options possible if you create a good system for all the students. So let's begin. Here, my goal is for you to learn the 5 steps district and school administrators must take to consult and collaborate with school counselors to implement a radically successful Tier 1 college and career planning system for middle and high school families. And when I say radically successful, is I realize that every high school does things differently. I realize that middle schools do things differently. And in ASCA, we have learned that if we have a Tier 1 system, a comprehensive counseling program that provides direct services to students in Tier 1, all students, as Trish will say, by virtue of breathing, everybody gets the same information. Well, let me tell you one thing. When I came to Fillmore High School, I used to meet just one-on-one with my counselor as needed. I would get my schedule of classes, and I thought I got what I will get. And I believe I had no choice. Until my senior year is when I realized that I had like a choice. I was an English language learner. I had to be tracked in ELD classes. I couldn't take classes outside of ELD because the belief was you have to learn the English language. As a result, you have to do also a certain electives such as woodshop, classes that will help you only uh, uh, for a particular career. Little did I know that there were many more options. So it's really important for me to share with you some of those concepts that I learned in regards to creating a successful Tier 1 system. Discover how innovative collaboration can maximize college and career planning and time for all your families, school counselors, and the school administration. So here's some information about my background. As I said, the most important thing that I would like to probably share with you is that over the past 16 years, when I was a school counselor, I was able to observe some of the best practices to make sure that students and families understand their college and career options. And that is really simple for all of us to be able to create those systems. It will become innovative. One fun fact I can share with you is I love to dance salsa and I love to eat salsa. And yes, in 2014, Trish Hash asked me to go to the White House convening that they had in Washington, D.C and be a representative as a school counselor as to how can Michelle Obama work with school counselors and work with first generation college students. And so one of the biggest things in highlight at the time was that I was able to share some of my best practices that I did as an avid counselor at Morpa High School. And I was able to share some of those stories with some of the best, some of the students that I worked with. And then I was able to, 6 months later, introduce Michelle Obama, where she launched her Reach Higher initiative. And then also, we were able to go to the Christmas holiday party at the White House and meet the dogs. So it was amazing. And when you talk about the professional school counseling, I think that professional school counseling has so much to offer to our students. And for me, it has been life changing. And I will be sharing with you some of the work that we have done at Morpa High School, and they will be available in a link for you. So feel free to look at those files and see what you can use. Obviously, I don't work anymore at Morpa High School, but there are some of the resources that they have been using or we used before. Now, everything regarding the idea of this concept about harvesting opportunities began when I remember a principal came to me. I was an avid counselor in 2011, and a principal came to me and said, Homero, it was like the first week when school has started for high school students. And she comes to me and says, Homero, you have to cancel the avid senior class. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, we only have 16 students and we have to have at least 26 students. And we cannot run, the district says that we cannot run a class with only
record.
So she said that we cannot run a class with only 16 students. So I called each student in who were in the AVID class, senior class, and I said, "Hey, students, the principal told me that we had to cancel this class because there's not enough of you in this class." And it was my first year being the AVID counselor, and the students were so upset. They said, absolutely not. We have been in the AVID program since 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade. And now on our final year, you're going to remove the AVID senior class, the class that's going to help us apply for colleges. And they were so upset. And I said to them, look, let me share with you, with the principal your concerns, and let me see what the principal says. So I meet with the principal again, and she says, look, Homero, if you can get 26 students in that class, I don't care who you are in that class, then we'll run the class. So I said, okay, game is on. So for me, if you know me, I started thinking about which students can benefit. And I remember being an ELD student, and I remember as an ELD student never having access to being in AVID because I was an ELD. But I remember in our ELD classes, and I was the ELD counselor too, I had some really good ELD students who really wanted to go to the community college and then to a university. So I went to recruit from some of those students who were taking some random electives, and I put them in the AVID class. So we were able to keep that AVID class together. 4 years later, every student that was in the AVID class increased from 16 students to 36, and all of the 36 students were on track for A through G, whereas when I took the AVID class, only 6 students were on track for A through G. And as counselors, it is our responsibility to make sure that if we're going to be overseeing a program, we make sure that all students are meeting the criteria and the goals for that program. And so we work together with all the counselors, administrators to make sure that students receive the appropriate services from then on. Now, right now, I'm doing my doctoral degree at CLU, and I'm working on my dissertation. And this is my dissertation topic: a comparison study of the effects of high school counselor ratios on student outcomes in 2 suburban Southern California school districts. And the reason why this topic is important is because I researched and I learned that ASCA created a 250 to 1 ratio back in the 1950s, in the late 1950s. And so that idea that a school counselor should have no more than 250 students in the counseling caseload, it would be ideal. Yet, I'm going to ask you a question. If you're a school counselor right now, can you type in the chat? What is your current, let's say, high school counselor ratio? If you can add and put in what is your current number of students that you serve, it will be helpful. Because there was a study recently done, and they said that, oh, the ratio really doesn't matter. What matters is the services that you provide to students. And so for me as a counselor, I had 620 students at Washington High School my first 2 years. And at Morpa High School, it ranged from the highest, maybe 550, 580, to the lowest, like 350. And I can tell you that ratio matters. I was able to provide better services to students if I had less students in my counseling caseload one-on-one. So you can see, you look at all the numbers here, and there are so many different numbers. You see 500, 320, 390, 350, there 400, 550, 300, which I love to see those numbers, 375, 280, 150 to 1. Yes, Cheryl, I love it. Happy face for sure. And so looking at these numbers, what I realize is that I agree with one concept. The ratio matters, but what matters most is the service and how you're going to provide the services to the students. And that's what the research also is saying. So when we focus on tier one, we're talking about tier one providing a core curriculum for college and career planning. And the question becomes, how do we present and how do we teach to all the students and the families all the options from 8th grade to 9th grade, in 9th grade to 10th grade, 10th grade to 11th grade, and 11th grade to 12th grade? How do we teach them all the different options that exist? Because if we give them all the options to the students and families, they're going to choose based on what they think is best for their plans and career goals. But this is the problem. As counselors, sometimes when I used to do a lot of one-on-ones with students in 10, 11, and 12, a lot of students will come later on and be like, I didn't know you had that choice. Or the parents will be like, I didn't know you had that choice. And I was like, well, it was on the handbook. Yeah, but they didn't read the handbook. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I highly, highly recommend that we start doing. So to begin, uh, case study one. As a counselor, we're supposed to provide graduation requirements information, college admission requirements, high school program reviews, and ninth grade tentative schedule where they have to complete that schedule. So at those course registration presentations, we make sure that we go over all of that information with our students and families so that they know what they're going to be selecting. So case study one, I remember in Oceanside High School, in eighth grade, we used to go to the middle school sites at a library, and we will meet with all the eighth graders and we will share with them all the different options. They will select their classes, and then we will get phone calls from parents. I don't know what my kids sign up for. Can you tell me? It was way more work for us. We had no idea. As new counselors, we were four new counselors out of five counselors starting there in the district. We had no idea how important it was for us to include the parents in that decision making. But we were just following the system that had been in place there for years. And so uh, we had to change that eventually. But that first year and the second year, it was hard because we would just go to the middle schools, share the information to the students, let the eighth graders select their classes. Think about the eighth graders. What classes do they want? Some of them, they want the easiest classes. Some of them know what they really want, so they challenge themselves with some honors classes or pre-AP classes. So it's really important for us to know how we're creating that system for our students and families. Case two. Let me go back to case study two. Um, we also in Morpah High School, we started to do presentations to eighth graders in their middle school sites at night, and it was 3 parent nights, and the parents will have to come with their kid to register for classes, and we will give that presentation to them about graduation requirements, college admission requirements, high school program reviews, everything, all the different options that exist in high school for course placement, and so on. And I thought the parents were never going to show up at night. I thought that it was going to be impossible to have the parents. Yet we have probably close to 85 to 90% of the parents always showed up to register the student for classes because they knew it was important. And when students and parents were not able to do that at the event, the middle school counselors will meet one-on-one at the middle school sites, and they will meet with those parents who had questions and so on. So that was also really, 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 really helpful. Now, case study three. As a high school counselor, presenting to eighth grade students and the parents at the high school performing arts. So for the first time, we got the parents to come with the students instead of the middle school sites. They will come to the high school. They will start becoming acquainted with the facilities in the high school, and we will do this presentation there. And it was a whole different game. It was something where we said, you know what, let's bring the parents and the students to the high school so they can get excited. And that was another way of us starting to do that college and career planning with eighth graders to ninth grade. Case study four, high school counselors will present for eighth grade students and parents at the high school performing arts center. And we recorded the presentations. This was after COVID. During COVID, we had to pivot as a counseling department. We had the challenge. How do we provide the information to our students and families during COVID times? One of the most difficult times, I think, for me to be a high school counselor and for all of us. And it was, how do we provide this service to the students and families? So we had to start updating ourselves with technology. So we decided to record the presentation and then also invite the parents to hear the presentation in person live, or they can listen to it recorded, because some parents didn't feel comfortable coming to the school because of COVID. So they had both choices. And by having those two choices, it was a great option also for our students and families. Now, case study five. I was doing when I became a middle school counselor and I had been at the high school. This is what I realized. that as a middle school counselor, I could do a lot to help the students and families be prepared so that when they went to the high school, they were able to already know exactly what classes they wanted. So I was privileged to have the background of the high school knowledge. Not every middle school counselor has that knowledge. So for me, I was teaching 6 to 8 lessons to the eighth graders, so like intentional guidance, tier 2 almost, but it was like tier 1 to all the eighth graders. And I will be talking to them about all the options that were available to them in high school. But they also did a career interest assessment. I make sure the students did a career interest assessment to see what were the top career choices, top 3 careers. And if they went to high school, which career choice would they want to focus on? And so that when they would take certain classes, they were taking classes with that mindset. I've never seen that done anywhere else, but I started to do that as a middle school counselor, and it helped tremendously my students in eighth grade going to high school. So that's option case study 5. Now, for last one, case study 6, this is probably one of the ones that I will recommend, but it depends on your site. Middle school counselors should do the presentations to all the eighth graders to prepare them for high school. And parents and then the parents and the students should attend course registration events at the high school site. And then the high school counselors should also have presentation recorded for the parents and the students to review. And the career interest assessment should be done with all the eighth graders going into high school. If this is done, I think there's going to be better choices in planning the master schedule in high schools, because students and parents really know all the different choices and everything that they want to do. Now, so the biggest question is, which case study is better to support students' college and career planning? Case study 1, case study 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, as you know, it's all subjective. It all depends on what's better for your school site, with your administration, with your counselors. But I think there's a lot of value. Right now, I teach a class called Education and Career Planning. And one of the things that I learned in teaching this class of college and career planning is this, that there are many theorists that emphasize that students have to take career assessments to learn some of the key careers that may go with their personality. There's free career assessments through ONET. In Navians, if you have Navians, there are career assessments. In California, we have California Career Zone. But there's a lot of free tools for students to know their career options. And so what I believe is important is for you in your site to make sure that you keep using what you have been using if it is working. But if you see some things that here that can help you, hopefully they can help you. Now the bottom line that will help a school site improve the college and career opportunities for students, I think, is these 5 steps. Number 1, planning meetings. All school counselors should be part of those meetings with administration when building and creating and discussing classes for the following year and building the master schedule. They should be in the conversation. They should not be doing it, but they should be in conversations with administration at all times. Number 2, course handbook and counseling website. The course handbook and counseling website have to be updated, ready when you start doing your course registration. There were times that our course handbooks were not updated. And guess what? Parents were reading the wrong information. Sometimes the counseling website was not updated. We relied on somebody else updating the counseling website. And after the pandemic, the principal had laid off our counseling secretary who used to update our counseling website. And we had to learn how to use Google Sites. And so we created our own Google site website. I was the main person in charge of making a lot of the updates, but my colleagues were giving a lot of content feedback as to, let's make sure you add this, make sure you add this. And so find a team member in your counseling department that can help you update that counseling website. I really believe it should be a school counselor. It should not be a counseling secretary or someone. Why? Because we know the content and we know what needs to be there. Oftentimes you want something to be added to a website and it doesn't get added until a week later. You need to update it right away. So I highly believe that counselors should have the power to update the counseling websites. Another thing that we should know, right? How to do. Number 3, course request. The course request should be updated. There were many times as a counselor, that the principal will come to us after May and say, oh, I am sorry, everyone. We are no longer going to offer this class or these two other classes or these three other classes. And it was like, what? We already added 200 students to those classes. So now what do we do with those 200 students? And they will be like, well, put them in another elective. You know how hard it is for each counselor with a caseload of 600 students to have to remove all these students to other electives that these kids don't even want? It's really hard. So I think it's really important that the course request is updated so that it has the correct information. Record tier one presentations. Definitely record your presentation that you're gonna give to all the parents and the students so they have it available. Now, what I learned after the pandemic too is this: that everyone listens to these videos. The attention span based on the YouTube analytics that I saw, they would spend 5, 6, 7 minutes watching these videos. So maybe you create short clips, but I think it's important for you to record your presentation and make it available in the primary languages available in your community. And number 5, still present your tier one presentations in person. There's nothing better than doing it in person. Definitely, you should still present in person to the families and the students. Now, one of the biggest things in regards to this step, which I think is a very important step, is these planning meetings. When you're doing these planning meetings, um, make sure that they're scheduled every week. Every week, we used to have a meeting every Friday with the school counselors, and the principal or an administrator or assistant principal will come uh, to our meeting, and we will debrief about course planning and classes for the following year. Every week, it was scheduled. And then on Mondays, we had another meeting with administration, and sometimes we will talk there too. But it was an ongoing, it was planned, it was not just, it was planned. It was happening. It was not let's meet whenever it's possible. No, it was planned. So make sure you schedule those meetings like that. Um, Also in regards to planning these meetings, make sure that you invite all the stakeholders that are that should be available to give feedback. For example, a lot of the courses have to be updated in the handbook. So the department chairs at the high school, they have to make sure that all the courses that they are offering are updated. There were times that some of those courses were not updated, or they would say the prerequisite to take chemistry honors or AP chemistry is take chemistry college prep. And so we as counselors will follow the handbook. If it says in the course handbook that in order to take AP chemistry, you have to take chemistry college prep, I am not going to place a student in AP chemistry who wants to take AP chemistry because he says there's a prerequisite. And so the one day the department chair came to us and says like, oh, no, a student can just take the AP chemistry class if they want to, if they really want to, they can actually take a test in the summer. And it was like, what? We don't know that. You have to let us know. So those have to be updated. That way you have to have all the stakeholders involved. And then just discussing the changes for the master schedule, adjunct duties. As counselors, sometimes we have jobs that are not related to the college and career planning process. Sometimes we're doing football game supervision. Sometimes we're doing lunch supervision, and we're not really doing some of the duties that we're supposed to be doing to support all students in college and career planning. And so making sure that you have those discussions to make those changes. Preparing an agenda and keeping record of meetings by collecting counseling meetings. Really important to always have counseling meetings, minutes, because sometimes you may forget what was discussed about a decision for a particular class, but if you have the minutes and you have a counseling secretary always at the meeting taking the minutes, it's going to be super helpful. Step 2, as I said before, update the course handbook and counseling website. Um, can somebody put here on the chat, and I would like you to share with me, um, as a counseling department, who updates your counseling website? Can you put it here in the chat? Who updates your counseling website? Is it a school counselor? Is it Jeff Ream? Yeah, Jeff. I remember back in the days, Jeff, when you were showing us in CASC that you were updating your website, and we were like, "What? That's amazing, Jeff!" And after the pandemic, all my colleagues and I had to learn how to use Google Sites, and it was life changer. And I know you have been doing that for a long time, Jeff. Um, and so if you look at some of the responses, school counselor and guidance tech, head counselor, we don't have a website, never had one for the middle school, so we're trying to get one. Head counselor, registrar. So there's a lot of different responses. And so the biggest thing I will recommend to all of you is find a platform like Google Sites is a really easy way to update it. Once you become familiar and you become open to learn, it becomes a life changer for the families and for the students. You can put so many information. So here's two samples of the websites that we have created. The Morpa High School website that I was updating. And then once I left Morpa High School in 2022, I have worked with my colleagues for us to make sure that we all knew how to add the counseling website. So when I left, they kept updating the website on their own, and that's amazing. You want to make sure that you train everyone to do the work, because if one counselor leaves, the person who knows how to do the website, then it can become really challenging for everyone. So definitely, here are some resources for you about that. Now step 3, update the course request. As I said to you, it is so important to update the course request. It's really important for you to plan out your course request process, exactly verifying that all the courses have been verified. These are all the classes that we are. It's like a menu. That menu has to be perfect. And if you're giving this menu to students and it's a wrong menu, they're going to be selecting the wrong classes, and as a result, you're not going to be able to build an accurate master schedule. And so make sure that you talk with your administration and they are solid about those they're gonna be offered. Now we know there's changes in administration. We know that happens, and it will always most perfect, accurate course requests uh, as a final product. Having an accurate course catalog, make sure that you have that handbook definitely as accurate, updated. Work with your an assistant principal to make sure that maybe they're the ones who are updating it, and you as a counselor, you just review and making sure that everything is accurate. Establish a timeline, ensure the students are requesting the proper courses. A student center schedule, make sure that the course catalog should be built on student demand to ensure that all students get what they need. But as you know, sometimes we don't have space for everybody. We only have 5 sections for a class, and now we have 7 sections because many students want the class. But remember, sometimes when you show the data to the administration and they're like, "Oh, we have 300 students who want to take a culinary arts class. Why don't we offer 2 sections or 2 teachers to teach the class, right?" So that's an administration decision if they see the numbers, and that's why data is so important. Making the schedule work, get the correct information out to the students is just so important. Here's a sample master schedule that was created at Santa Monica High School. In Santa Monica High School, they have like the task, the person responsible, the target date, and notes. And some people think that the master schedule in planning for the following year should happen until like January. And the reality is no. As soon as you finish in August, so, probably the first 2 weeks adding students for the following year for classes or for the year, the clock should start ticking as to, okay, what are we gonna do next year? What do we need to improve? What do we need to do? And so it's really important to start planning ahead right away. So that is a sample. Step number 4, record your tier 1 college and career presentations. There will always be families who cannot go to your presentations, but if you have it recorded, you can share with them the link. I used to share a link to my mass email to all the families and students, and it was awesome. I would send this link, and we know that not all families have sometimes even an email, but it's important for us to find a creative way to share this with our students and families, because if you have a high caseload, you don't have the time to be doing a one-on-one presentation about all the different options. This is also good for new students that are coming to your school. There will be new students coming to my high school, and they never had a whole presentation about all the options. So they would select the classes based on whatever I gave them in that moment that they discussed with me, and they didn't know that something was available for them that they could have chose that a week before, 2 weeks before. So it's really important for us to have this recorded. And now you can just do like a Zoom meeting and record it, or even a Google Meet and record it. Now, tier one presentation. Are we reaching our entire audience? Well, the idea is that we should have audio, visual, and kinesthetic. One of the biggest things that I think is really important is you as a counselor, we are teachers and we thrive on a lot of one-on-one, but we have to find that tier one opportunity when we can do those large presentations. At Morpa High School, we only did these presentations for the 8th grade to 9th grade, but for 10, 11, and 12, we only met one-on-one with the students. The belief was that we line up all the students behind our office, they come with the English class, and we just meet one-on-one with each student, and we help them register for classes for 10th, 11, and 12. And well, that's a great idea of working one-on-one with the students. What I learned as a counselor is I had to repeat myself so many times. Whereas if I would have done a presentation to the students, I would have given the information that they needed, and it would have been much easier. And then I could still done one-on-one with them, but it would have gone deeper meeting with the student. So I still recommend the one-on-one, but I think that there's a lot of value to the large presentation. Now, for me, what is my story? So when I was 14 years old, I got into a fight inside the classroom, and my dad was super upset with me when I got home, and he said, "You either go to school to learn, or you come and work with me for the rest of your life to pick lemons and oranges." So that was my college and career planning, and it was a consequence. It was not like, really, this is really what you want to do, mijo? No. It was like, you're going to go fight at school. You either go to learn, or you focus on working with me for the rest of your life, picking lemons and oranges. And so for me, that was a life changer. And so for me, my dad was a breadwinner. My mother was taking care of my siblings. My parents only had a second grade education. But think about it. All your students have stories. All your students that you're working with have their own story. Oftentimes, we don't get to know their story. And it's really important for us as counselors to build the rapport and the relationship in a large tier one presentation so the students and families can get to know us. And then as we are building that trust, we go into one-on-one meetings, and now you're able to have different conversations. My counselor never, my parents and the counselor never worked together, ever, 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 ever. It was all on my own, meeting with a counselor one-on-one, thinking that I was stuck in ELD forever. I was in ELD classes in 9th and 10th grade. Finally, in 11th and 12th grade, I took college prep classes. And when in my 12th grade, when I wanted to take a photography class, little did I know that I couldn't take photography class because I was an athlete. I was doing cross country and track and field, and the photography class was experience. And so it's really important for us as counselors to connect with our students and families. So as we're finishing up our presentation, one of the biggest things is step number 5. School counselors presenting tier 1 presentations to the students and parents. There will always be magic by you presenting one-on-one, well, in a large, in the classroom of the students, or in a performing arts building to all the students. There will always be that magic where you as counselors are presenting to everyone, and that you as a counseling team, all the students know that you're on the same page. There were sometimes students will come to me and be like, "Mr. Magaña, can you change my schedule? My counselor doesn't want to change it." And he's like, "I'm not gonna change your schedule. You're gonna go back to your counselor." But students do that, and students have to see us as counselors working together. And it's really important for us to work together, because the more they see us work together as a team, instead of just one person presenting the information, it builds trust with the students and the families. And I think there's a lot of value to that. Now, what step is missing? Well, academic advising with students, individual student planning, career exploration, teaching self-advocacy to the students, and collaboration. These steps, I think, are additional steps that can be emphasized. Individual student planning should never go away, but we do a lot of that. The question is, can we do more tier 1? Now, you can put on the chat, If you do tier one presentations, say yes. If you don't do tier one presentations for college and career planning, say no. I want to see what type of work you're doing here. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Good job, Katie. Andrea, yes. Dreama, Andrea, yes. Diana, not yet. I like that word, not yet. Erica. See, like all of you guys are rock stars. And so some of the things that I'm repeating with you is probably preaching to the choir. But keep doing this. I'm telling you, it's amazing. It's life changing. And then collaboration maximizes college and career planning. The more you do that, the better. Now, let me show you a quick example. Um, this is an example of Crispy Carmelite High School. It's a private all boys high school. You know basketball. Derek Fisher from the Lakers is a coach there. But one of my students at CLU, he didn't have a PPS credential, Kevin, and so he's working as a counselor already there for the past like 8, 9 years. And so see, this is some of the data from Crispy High School. My student Kevin, his counseling caseload is approximately I think 120 students to one counselor. And so this is a private high school. Don't public students deserve to have also maybe a counselor for 120, 150 students? I think they do. Remember, the ASCA ratio was created back in 1958, 59. That's like 50 years ago, more than that. And it was not even created based on science. Things have changed so much. Our students need so much more. And I think that ratio is should even be lower because as counselors, we can provide a lot more one support. But if we can't do that, obviously tier one can help you tremendously. But I want to just point to you some of the things that I learned from Crispy High School. One, they provide a lot of service to the students, and this is Kevin right here with the glasses on the left. And they meet with the students and they create a personalized plan. I mean, families are paying more than $20,000 to per year for the student to go to this high school, so they're getting a lot of one-on-one support, and they're getting presentations for the parents and the students, and they're doing a lot of amazing work. This is how the college and career center looks like. If you look at the banners, it talks about college, right? The importance of uh, uh, showing that you have a college culture by having those pennants. This is another, it's a great quote. Never forget that while some students have been raised with an expectation that they will attend college and others will need convincing, all benefit when immersed in a college going atmosphere with the necessary tools for success. And yes, I understand that not everyone is going to go to college. I understand that. But let them decide, right? As counselors, we have to let them decide. I came from Mexico with the idea that I was going to work on the fields. I ended up going to UC Berkeley, right? And so never we cannot deny the possibilities of people. Yes, because maybe right now in high school they're not doing that well. Here is a college rep coming to talk to all the students about a specific university, and right here is the principal watching that this is happening. When I did my fieldwork at Torrey Pines High School in Del Mar, I remember a UCLA rep coming to present to Torrey Pines High School students. And there was like 200 students who came out of the classroom to listen to this UCLA rep as to how can they get into UCLA. I believe these opportunities have to be created for all of our students. And sometimes students in some low SES communities, UCLA is not going to go and do a presentation for students from that school to go to UCLA. But we should have students being able to attend some of those reps so they can learn and become embedded in the college going culture. And so they also use Naviance. They look at a scattergram and they look at the data based on a particular GPA, test scores, how often are you going to get accepted to a particular university. So they do a lot of collaboration. They talk to alumni. And so I think that's something that we have to continue to do. So to finalize, planning meetings, course handbook and counseling website, course request, record tier one presentation, and present tier one presentations live. These 5 steps, I think, are key. And if all of you are doing this work, continue to do this work. Your families and students are going to love it. So what I would like to do right now is just, if you wanted to create your own 5-step plan, you may already have it. But my challenge to you is create a 5-step plan and talk to your team and say, like, is this our best 5-step plan? My plan that I'm recommending is based on my knowledge, but for you in your school and your needs, you may need something specific. And then share current college and career plans. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing. And what I would like all of you to share is this. Somebody here may have already realized, yeah, we're doing this, and we can't wait to even do this. So I would like to hear some people here about your thoughts about what you're doing, what you see yourself doing, maybe one thing that you learned from this presentation, and just have a discussion about how does this sound to you?
We can just speak.
Yes.
I'm not on the campus, I'm at the district level, but what I really liked was the fact about the making sure you're recording your presentations, but then recording little snippets so it's
Yeah.
not as long to catch people's attention.
It's almost like Jeff, you may even know this better than us. It's almost doing like a TikTok minute presentation for our students about something like, hey, you want to sign up for this English class? These are the different options. Boom, boom, boom. Add music to it. And all of a sudden, but obviously, as you know, not all of us are experts in some of this content or creating these videos. And we have to learn this technology, but making sure that we talk with administrators to give us that.
I think Homero may have froze for a second. Oh, you're back.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Who else?
I did see a question in the chat from Allison asking about specific examples of what counselors are recording for families, just to throw that out there.
Number one, always talk about graduation requirements. It's important that you do it in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and even 12th grade, or 8th grade to 9th grade. College admission requirements. Always talk about college admission requirements. Always talk about the course options, all the different course options, specific requirements, prerequisites, application deadlines. Some students may want to try out for sports, so make sure you have all the sports tryouts dates so the students know. That's definitely very important question. Kristen, your statement is so important. I am in favor of doing what you're saying. However, many of the pieces like the website, course handbook, and course selections are controlled at the district level. And that's where the conversation has to happen between you and the district. Now, if that system is working, maybe you keep using the system. But if that system needs improvement, it's really important for you to have those conversations maybe after this presentation and start thinking about like, how can we make it much more where we have the control? Now, I know that also we had to move to online registration during the pandemic. And for the first time, we allow students to select the classes. Oh, that was so hard. It was so hard to give the power and the autonomy to students and the families to select the courses. Then we allowed them to do that, and then we had to go clean it up. 80, 90% of the time, they did it right. Sometimes they selected the wrong courses. But it's training, it's ongoing discussion. But I think it's an important process that you have to continue to discuss with your team. Corny, any other ones that I have to thank you,
Well, I
Kristen?
just saw I saw a comment from B. Fleischer saying, it feels like every time I try to bring up counselors needing updates on course catalog stuff, I always get told that course offerings have nothing to do with counseling. So what do you think about that?
Uh, well, you know, one of the biggest things is like there are people who do not understand the role of us as counselors. And one of the biggest things is when we're meeting one-on-one with this student or a family, we're the ones that are providing the menu to the students and the families. We're the ones and the students oftentimes need a lot of help. The students will ask you, what do you think, Julie? What do you think, Trisha? Or they will say, what do you think, Miss Ortez Galan? And it's like, we have to give them feedback. We have to give them our ideas and perspective. And so they rely on our expertise. And so if that information is available and accurate in the course catalogs and the course requests and everything, it's so much more easier for the students to ask even better questions in the families. I just think that's something that a discussion that has to happen about the role of the school counselor is going to make our lives easier when we have high caseloads. It's going to provide accurate information to all the students and the families. And I think it's part of the education that we have to continue to do. And unfortunately, even the recommendations that I'm giving you, not everything that was 100% perfect in the world that I live in for 10 years as a high school counselor. But after going through those 16 years of experience, I know in here right now, some of you probably have even a better system. And if you feel like you have something that you like to share that you currently do in your site, can somebody tell us what is it that you do in your system at your school right now that you think is working well for you?
Well, while people are thinking about that, hopefully people will respond to that. There was a question from earlier when you, at the very beginning, you were talking about how you increased Avid enrollment, like you doubled it. And someone was wondering, what did you do specifically to increase your Avid numbers?
It's very simple. Very simple. You have to have counselor to go to the middle school sites with the Avid coordinator and share about the Avid program. Make sure you assign an Avid counselor. Make sure that when you're recruiting students, you also bring some students who are amazing students in your Avid program, and you share the stories with in front of the classes. Make sure that you're actively working with your school counselors to identify students who will be great candidates to be in Avid. And then one year we had an issue in 2013, 14, I believe, that we realized many Avid juniors and seniors were starting to drop from Avid because they wanted to take more AP classes junior and senior year. So we created Avid 0 period. So they will start at 7 in the morning, from 7 to 8 in the morning. And that also allow a lot of those amazing students to stay in Avid. So feel free to email me. My contact is on the PowerPoint, and I can give you more direct feedback, but it can be done. It can be done, especially in communities where there's a lot of students. I remember when I would call students, and then I used to send passes to all the students and who were first generation. And I would get a list from my registrar that said, these parents didn't go to beyond high school education. So I would send all these passes to all these students, and all these students will come in, and they were like white students, Asian students, Hispanic students. And then when I would tell them, oh, I'm going to share with you about the AVE program, some kids like, oh, this is not for me. And like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, I'm like, no, like that's not for me. And like, what do you mean? And they were like, that's only for Hispanic students. And like, no, AVID is not just for Hispanic students. AVID is for first generation college students. And there are so many, sometimes students who are white, who are different races, and they can benefit from the AVID program too. And so I was able to include a lot of those students to join the program and change the perception of the AVID program. Thank you. Great question, Courtney.
That was an awesome answer. Thank you so much. There's a lot of love for you in the chat, Homero. This was such a great presentation, really inspiring. People could walk away with so many resources. I do want to, as we wrap up, is it okay if I wrap up, Homero, or any final thoughts before I do that?
Probably the last thing I will just close with all of you is this. College and career planning is an ongoing process that has to continue to improve. whatever work you're doing, keep doing that amazing work. But if there are ways to pivot and make it better, do it for you and your team. Don't be afraid to try new things. The problem is this, that sometimes you may come with the energy to do it, but your administration or your colleagues may not. If you want to talk to me more one-on-one later on, feel free to email me, hmagaña at callutheran.edu. And as a professor right now, one of the unique opportunities that I have is that I'm able to just help. I'm in this position now, a privileged position to help the world. Why? Because so many people have helped me throughout my journey. And if there's anything I can do to help you, I'll be happy to help you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to share in a minute a slide with Homero's contact information as well. So to wrap up here and give Homero a little break from his voice, thank you all for coming. So if this is your first time joining us for the Hatching Hour, this is a webinar series that we put on once a quarter, hosted by Hatching Results. We've done some amazing webinars in the past, and you're actually able to go view all of those. So solutions for school counselor use of time, flashlight presentations, using National School Counseling Week as an advocacy opportunity, which is coming up soon. You're able to check all of these previous webinars on our website and save the date for our next webinar, April 5th. We're going to have Brett Zoromsky sharing with us about evidence-based school counseling. So more information will be coming via email about that soon, but wanted to make sure you knew about that. In case you're also wanting to learn more with Hatching Results, we host virtual learning events. So these are some of our calendars, upcoming events that we have include like a use of data overview. So we do a full day workshop where we teach you how to use data. It's using Dr. Hatch and Julie Hartline's use of data book as a textbook as a guide. And then we also have a 7-part workshop series all about using data. So you can find more information about those events on our website as well. But to wrap up, just thank you so much again for coming. We would love to know what you thought of the evaluation and how we did today. So if you don't mind just taking about 2 or 3 minutes and filling out this eval before you go, we would really appreciate it. We'll also put that link in the chat. And then below here is also Homero's contact information. So Homero, thank you again so much. This was a really inspiring, passionate presentation. Loved hearing about your story, and I know so many other people did as well. So with that, we're going to wrap up. Thanks again for coming, and we hope to see you at our next webinar in April. Thank you so much, everybody.
Adios.